So if you have a clearly stated terms of service that has your refund policy and you do dispute it, then you will win. And we found that's really good. Like winning chargebacks is actually good for your merchant reputation.
Hey everybody, this is Business Lunch, and you have your hosts here, Ryan Dice and myself, Roland Frazier, welcoming you to a seat at the table. Ryan, what's happening?
Nothing. It's great. It's kind of a chill week. I mean, I don't say nothing, but I'm excited that I've got an entire week where hopefully nothing eventful is taking place. Having said that now and putting that out to the universe, I'm sure that just crap's going to come crashing down. But dude, I looked out at this week and the number of just like open spots on my, it's how it should be.
Same for me.
We like to,
yeah.
This is a good week. Yeah, no, you're screwed, but I'm feeling good. And so you asked me how I was going. I'm great. What about you?
No, I'm great too. It is. My week is, it's oddly open. Yeah. My wife has something she needs me to help her do for a couple of days. And then I've got a thing I need to do. And I looked at the calendar and I didn't have to move. I think I had to move one thing around. It's been so crazy that feels really good. Like I was looking at this week saying,
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Cause like my kids, there's like, it's the soccer, two of my kids play soccer. It's soccer playoffs. There's like games every night and they're starting early. And I'm telling my wife, I was like, as busy as things have been, which is not okay. I think that's important, right? CEOs, entrepreneurs, our goal should not be to optimize for busyness, and certainly shouldn't be something we brag about. But yeah, it's looking at it, it's like, oh, this is how it was before we had like 17 billion events that all stacked up together. This is like what normal actually is. So it's great. It's really, really good.
I have something that I read and I found it absolutely fascinating as a trend. I wanted to share with you and get your take on it. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm going to read the article. It's very, very, or whatever I clipped of it. It's very, very short. 42% of Gen Z admit to committing friendly fraud. Friendly fraud, also known as first-party fraud, occurs when customers file a fraud claim or a chargeback despite being satisfied with a purchase. Any business that accepts digital payments as a target. Research revealed that 42% of Gen Z admit to engaging in first-party fraud. The majority of them don't realize what they're doing is fraud, and they're unaware that it's the merchant who absorbs the cost of the chargeback. I find that shockingly like tone deaf to like, they're not aware it's fraud. You literally are getting money back for something you paid for that you like. Anyway, I'm going to keep the conversation to just the article here. This article, blah, 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 tips and brands to protect. And it went on to talk about how you can protect yourself. I thought, my goodness, what 42%? Holy goodness. That's, and it's, to me, to call it friendly fraud puts such a happy face on, cowardly card terrorism. It's
it reminds
just
me
like
of quiet quitting. You remember when quiet quitting was a thing? And it's like, oh, that's nice. They're quitting quietly. It's like, no, they're like, they stopped working. It was stealing.
And they're getting paid, which is theft.
All of these. Yeah. Go ahead. I think you're about to say the same thing as me.
I sound like the 1,000-year-old, I used to walk both ways uphill to school in the snow guy, but my God, I mean, this, like, why are we putting all these euphemisms on these things that are so wrong and bad and calling it okay and making it this cuddly, it's quiet quitting and it's friendly fraud. It's hurting businesses and it is lying, cheating, and stealing. And what the heck? Okay. That's my, my 2 cents on it. What do you think? And what do you do about it?
Well, I think so. I mean, again, I don't want this to just be, two old guys like yelling at clouds kind of thing. And so from a business perspective, I do think that it's important that that your terms of service and stuff like that are up to date. We have had this happen, whether it was, Gen Z or, old guy, Gen X or boomer like us. I don't know. It does happen, but we dispute them. And we've got somebody in our department where we can show, our policy clearly states that if these things don't happen, then no refund, and we win them. So if you have a clearly stated terms of service that has your refund policy and you do dispute it, then you will win. And we found that's really good. Like winning chargebacks is actually good for your merchant reputation. It shows that, you are doing what you say you're doing, and you've got a professionalized team there that's willing to, speak to these kind of things. So I think that's really, really important. You could probably speak to what needs to be in the terms of service better than I could with your, with your legal background. I think a lot of this comes from, though, a lot of the direct to consumer, a lot of the D2C companies that received this massive amount of funding in 2019, 2020, 2021, when e-com was just the hottest thing on earth, because it was already big, and then COVID happened and it got even bigger. And so investors just plowed money into the e-com space, and every e-com company, anybody selling anything is like, yeah, send it back. Don't send it back. You ask for your money back, we'll give you a refund. Certainly digital products, nothing really to send back. They can just, keep it and say they didn't like it. But a lot of this came from these really crazy money back guarantees that all these funded companies were doing because they were just buying customers at a loss. And now they can't do it anymore. But a lot of the policies still persist. A lot of the habits, consumer habits, are still persisting. And I think it's time for merchants to go, anybody selling anything, to go and review your terms of service and just say, do we really need to say that no matter what, under any circumstance, you can get your money back? Is that really what's the best thing? I don't know. What do you think?
So I think I read it as being a little bit different than that, because I think it's wonderful to encourage people to shift the risk that things aren't what they thought they were or fit the way they want with a very liberal return and exchange policy. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a chargeback, which requires an act of contacting a credit card company and disputing a charge that that you made, and it's for a product or service that that you got and that you knew that you were satisfied with. And so I think that's a very important distinction to make. And where I come down on it is, rather than shaking a finger at the world and saying that's not how it should be, even though it isn't.
Kids these days.
Yeah, is that, damn credit card, you toting kids on TikToks. That really, it's a problem that we have to address. And so while we wish that the world wasn't the way that the world is, sometimes it is what it is. And I definitely think that what you're talking about had something to do with it. And they're like, well, I could return it to Amazon or Zappos, so I should be able to return it here. But what hopefully will happen is that someone will raise a flag and say, hey, when you get something that you buy and then you take the money back from the people that you bought it from, the people that work at that company all suffer. And that's really not a healthy thing for you to be doing in our economy. And you're also kind of a jerk for doing it. And so I think that it is good to bring awareness. And then we go to prevention. And what you said is absolutely the thing there, is that you have good contracts, you have solid policies for how you take and process customer orders. And hopefully you've got some sort of customer experience that extends beyond the purchase, so that you can have some form of relationship with these people that will cause them to understand that if there is a challenge they've got, then there is or isn't a return policy and process, and that's what they need to follow. Then if they disagree with that, they can charge back, but they can't charge it back and keep the stuff. And I think that's kind of all you can do. And so probably the most effective thing for us would be to say, what does that process look like? So let's assume that this does continue. I would say starting at the beginning would be, what is your return policy and is it clearly articulated? Because if it is clearly articulated, then what you want to try to do is encourage people to take advantage of the return policy as opposed to going and doing a chargeback, because the chargeback is going to impact your credit card merchant service significantly more adversely than just a return. Right.
And so have lots of extra fees associated with it in addition to the refund. That's the brutal thing about chargebacks. It's like, we're going to take the money and then take some more money for our trouble.
Yeah. And maybe put a reserve in place for you, and then you'll get even less money. Right.
Right.
Okay. So thing one is figure out what your return policy is, clearly articulate it, and communicate that to the customer along the touch points of the purchase process, particularly when it gets into their hands. What are you telling them when they get it? with respect to what they can do if they're not happy with it, and what their options are. I'd say that's probably thing one. What do you think thing two is?
I mean, I think thing two is to have a process in place for, when chargebacks do occur. So you need to have the policies in place. You need to make people aware that they exist.
Anything else before we get there, though, that you could think of that maybe helps to mitigate?
There's no substitute for just having a truly exceptional, amazing product, a truly exceptional, amazing customer experience, for having a face to the product and the company, so that people don't feel like it's just some nameless, faceless organization. Because you said something before, people didn't realize this was a bad thing because they didn't know it would impact, the company.